Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. My partner is Ryan Holmes, RHOLM22 is his Twitter handle. Got it. I got it this week. I didn't forget. RTPOW podcast is mine. The draft was crazy. A lot of things went down. First of all, Ryan, how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean in Northern California this week, coming to you live from a hotel room in the Bay Area.
Exactly. Yeah. So before we jump into the draft day trades, right? So that they kind of were interesting here. We had some questions about some of the things they did here. Let's start with so are the Cardinals trying to become the smallest team in football? And Marquis Brown here from Baltimore. Obviously, they traded Marquis Brown, and the Ravens ended up getting that 23rd pick. What are your thoughts about that trade? I think Marquis Brown is, I don't know, James Jettish, I guess. I mean, he's just a deep threat. He only has a couple of routes in the route tree. He doesn't have all of them. So obviously, the big arm quarterback, Kyler Murray. I'm sure he'll end up getting a new contract here sooner or later. Thoughts about that trade, especially now that we see that DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss the first 7 games of the year.
Clearly, the Cardinals knew that Hopkins' suspension was in the works and it was coming, so they had to do something at wide receiver. They've basically given up on Andy Isabella. Christian Kirk left, and AJ Green's getting older. They have Rondell Moore in the slot, but you start piecing this together. Who do they have to make happy? They got to keep Kyler Murray happy. So they went and got his buddy, Marquis Brown. They played together, University of Oklahoma. Marquis Brown was available. Obviously, the Ravens didn't want to pay him what the going rate, so they got a first-round pick for him. And kudos to the Ravens for doing that, because they weren't going to pay Marquis Brown north of $25 million. And we'll see what happens. The Cardinals are going to have to pay him and Kyler Murray at this point. So those two are going to be tied together. Cliff Kingsbury obviously knows Brown because he was at Texas Tech when Brown was at Oklahoma, but there wasn't a lot out there. Like, I would have liked to see him go after AJ Brown. If there was a wide receiver available that they could have gone after, I would prefer to have AJ Brown if I'm the Cardinals, but they weren't going to get the receiver they wanted with the 23rd pick. Green Bay couldn't get one at 22. So
I'm not. That's a weird situation there too. I'm not sure. They have to. The owner and the GM are like best friends, so it's not like his job is going to be in jeopardy anytime soon. Maybe Kingsbury will be, but as long as they have that quarterback here, and he's doing the whole not having him on social media, the stuff like that, the little games they play on that one. We'll have to see what happens with the Cardinals going forward. The Ravens took with that pick they took what's his name for the safety from, was that the safety from
No, they took Hamilton at 14.
At 14.
The Ravens took Linderbaum.
Linderbaum center. So Linderbaum center. So we have that. So we have that on there. So you mentioned AJ Brown. He goes to Philadelphia, and I think what Philadelphia is, and you saw when they drafted Jordan Davis here, like he's just building a team, and then if Jalen Hurts doesn't kind of go into like becoming a star quarterback, that's fine. Once they get a quarterback, maybe in next year's draft or maybe in free agency, they'll have a team that's really locked and loaded, ready to go, and win some football games. Because the roster and the moves they've made in Philadelphia have been pretty good.
Yeah, you get kudos to Howie Roseman. He moved one of their 3 picks this year to get a pick in next year's draft already. So they already have 2 ones next year. This is Jalen Hurts' proven year. If he doesn't make a major improvement forward this year, they're going to move on at the quarterback position. They went out and got AJ Brown to add to that wide receiver core. They paid him $25 million a year. They have a pretty good offensive line there. Now you're adding Devontae Smith with AJ Brown, with Quez Watkins. Who knows what they're going to do with Jalen Reagor? They have Dallas Goedert. They have Miles Sanders in the backfield. So I like what they did on that front to give Hurts the opportunity and the weapons. I'm not a big Jordan Davis guy for the people that have listened to our podcast.
Yeah,
picking at 13, like I think that's a reach for me. Like he's a 2-down player. Yeah, he's great in the run game, but this league is not about running the ball anymore. You're going to be in 11 personnel. You're going to be in base sub packages on defense, and he's not going to play a ton in a base sub package. And if he is, you're not getting much pass rush value out of him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. He's a great player. If it gets cold and the weather, you get into January and you're in a bad weather game, you need to stop the run, or you're facing the Ravens, or you're facing a team Cleveland that wants to pound the ball. Well, you don't face those every week.
Yeah.
And especially in the NFC East, they're going to be throwing the ball. The Giants are probably going to throw the ball a lot this year. The Dallas Cowboys are clearly going to throw the ball a lot. Who knows what Washington's going to do with Carson Wentz? They're going to try to throw the ball as well. So I would have liked him in a different spot. I don't know if I like the value at 13.
Yeah. Just going through the draft a little bit here. We talked about, like, Balky was probably going to go Trayvon Walker. He went Trayvon Walker. That didn't surprise me. Funny that the Lions got in trouble for turning in the card too early, but they couldn't. I guess they couldn't wait. I mean, nobody could pick unless they traded the pick. Nobody could pick him for it. I used to pick Adrian Hutchinson over them. Were you surprised that Stingley and Gardner went back to back? Man, because the only thing I'm thinking about with the Jets is you have Robert Saleh there. They're almost like Niners East. And I'm saying to myself, the Niners always do a bunch of stuff as far as getting defensive linemen. They took another defensive lineman this year early in the draft. The Jets don't really have that. Not that Sauce Gardner isn't going to be a really good player, but they're playing a ton of cover 3. Like, they need that pass rush. So I'm surprised Jets didn't go pass rush there.
Yeah, it was obviously there was 2 corners that the teams felt safely about, and that was Stingley and Sauce Gardner. And once Stingley went off the board, you hit the Jets going to be able to get Sauce Gardner, I think, at 10. So they had to take him at 4, and they came back at 10 and obviously got the wide receiver. But I was surprised to see Stingley go that high, just because he hasn't put out good tape. He's battled a lot of injuries. Athletically, go back to his freshman year, the ball skills, like, you can put it together, but usually you don't take that kind of risk at that spot in the draft at number 3.
Yeah.
So this is going to be they're going to hit big on this pick, or they're going to be questioning about this down the line if he doesn't turn out to be the player they hope he's going to be. But I hope he does. I liked him a lot as a freshman watching that LSU team, and we'll see what happens. But it's kind of a risky pick for me at 3. Is also with, like you said, at 1. That's a huge risk at 1.
Yeah, no question about it. I think what the Giants did was smart. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau on one side, and then they got Evan Neal on the next side. I like that a lot. Somebody joked about the Seahawks getting offensive linemen after Russell Wilson leaves. So that was an interesting joke. I mean, did you see Jameson Williams' face in that Detroit picture? Like, I was just like, he knows that he can't. I'm
looking at it right now.
Yeah, he knows he can't go where he wants to go, right? So I'm not sure why that face was there. So it is what it is. Who did you, before we get to what the Raiders did and everything like that, what do you think about, like, the first round here? One quarterback going. I thought it was good that only one quarterback went. Kenny Pickett went to Pittsburgh. You mentioned, we were talking about in our pre-show stuff, like what was going on with the Vikings, like almost going out of the first round and making that move. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was surprised when that trade was announced. When the Lions went from 32 to 12, I'm thinking, okay, they gave up a future 1, maybe a future 1 and a 2. Like, that's a big jump to make. 20 picks from the last pick in the first round into basically 12, which is almost top 10. Then you see the compensation came up. They gave up pick 32, 34, and 66. So they gave up basically a second and a third to move up 20 spots. I think there's a lot of teams that would have signed up for that. I don't think the Vikings got great value there. Clearly, you go from picking 12th all the way down to 32. But kudos to the Lions and getting Williams. Like, they needed an explosive wide receiver on the outside. They probably had the worst set of wide receivers in the NFL last year. Clearly, hopefully, they're hoping he's healthy and can play at least half, if not 3/4 of the season coming off that ACL injury. And it gives them an option moving forward because Jared Goff's got 1 year left. He will not be there most likely in 23. So if they have a bad season and they're in a spot to take one of those quarterbacks for next year, they already have an explosive weapon on the outside. So, I wish the Raiders could make moves like that and not have to give up a ton of draft capital. But I'm still scratching my head what Minnesota was doing, why they fell from 12 all the way down to 32.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's just a big one. That's a big jump here. I'm going through the first round here. Kind of feel bad for Drake London. This is a Raiders and USC channel. I mean, him going to play with Mariota, who's going to play 2 games this year, is a tough spot. Olave going to the Saints here. You got back-to-back Ohio State wide receivers going in that first round as well. And do you like what the Packers did with the extra pick they got from the Raiders?
I don't Quay Walker at 22, good player. I like him. And pass up some better players there. So basically they're taking his athletic profile and I think he can fit into their defense, but you gave up Devontae Adams and you went out and got a linebacker. He's a good player. They just gave, who's the linebacker they got from the Falcons? Campbell. They just gave him a huge contract, like $50 million. And they go out in the same position. So that didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I would like to see them go in another direction, but I would have liked to see him be more aggressive and move up and get a wide receiver. But luckily they got Christian Watson to fall to them in the second round. So they did pick up a wide receiver, but they didn't get one of the top 4 or 5 guys.
So, so real quick. So I listen to a very few podcasts because I do my own. So I listened to one where there's a guy who worked with Belichick and so he goes on and on about how Belichick has already started the next year's draft. And he does write-ups his own. He does his own write-ups on every single player, all these things like that, and all the work that goes into a Belichick draft. So in my mind, I'm saying to myself, over the last 10 years, maybe he should be better at drafting some of his, if you're putting on that work smarter, not harder. Like if you're doing that for 10 years and the results are like last year, they had to spend the most money ever in history of NFL to get off the field a team that that was a fringe playoff team. Then, to me, it's like, okay, then something's not clicking there. So some folks who work for Belichick don't want to ever he's God and he never does anything wrong. He hasn't drafted well. So when people are making fun of Cole Strange, I got my tickets to see Doctor Strange for tomorrow, but Cole Strange from Tennessee, Chattanooga, is that another thing where we're sitting here saying to ourselves, what are the Patriots? Is that a huge reach there? Was this guy not going to be around? I wasn't hearing that he was not going to be around. I'm not going to say I watched tape on him. I watched a lot of tape. I didn't watch the tape on him. What are your thoughts about what the Patriots did in this draft?
It's a reach. That's the bottom line. And Belichick, Tom Brady erased a lot of those bad draft picks by being the Hall of Fame elite quarterback. Their track record in the draft is not good. They're one of the worst drafting teams. If you look at, the value basically and where they're taking some of these guys. The draft, you have to understand, one, it's where they fit within how you evaluate them, but you have to know where the value is and where you need to take them. That's kind of the big thing is where do you have to take these guys? Like Cole Strange, take him at 29, but they probably could have got him in the second round. He may have been there in the third round. And they overdrafted it and reached for the guy, and especially for a guard. Now, if we're talking a quarterback or a premium position, maybe it's a left tackle, but they took an interior lineman at 29 and reached on that. So as a Raider fan, we know all about reaches. We
Cleveland,
but
this
idea that Belichick picked him, so he must be good. Go look at their track record for the last 10 years of draft picks. It is not good. They are not one of the better drafting teams. The thought process of looking forward to next year's draft, I agree with that. If you're looking at quarterbacks, you have to understand where they're coming from in the pipeline and when you're going to be in position to get one. But I don't think teams are deep diving into, what do the guards look like in the 2023 draft before this one even takes place, or what do the defensive tackle drafts look like? They all know where the quarterbacks are coming from because those are much easier. But other than that, these teams start work on the next draft. They're probably already starts year's draft. But Yeah, I think that's just a lot of lip service, honestly.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a little much here. So let's start with the Raiders. So Dylan Parnum from Memphis, obviously a guy who a lot of people like a lot as a interior, played all the different positions there. He really kind of fit the mold of what this draft was for the Raiders. It was getting big up front on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball, and just having those guys be versatile as well.
Yeah, I think I sent a tweet out right after the draft that the new regime, the focus was on establishing the trenches. No special teams war daddies, no jokers, which is clearly Tanner Muse and Lynn Bowden in the third round. The Raiders can kind of use those terminology, but Parham fits the interior guy. I think they're going to give him a chance. He was a guard. He did play some tackle, played some guard. He projects probably best at center. And when you look at him, he's 6'2.5", 311 pounds, but he's quick. He ran a 4.9. Athletic player. He was a tight end and a linebacker in high school before he got to just some quick notes I took on him. He's undersized. 6'2", 311 is undersized in today's NFL in the interior, which is probably why teams think he can move into center. But he's an agile puller, fires low, creates leverage. He's a natural knee bender with core strength. You see him get under the pads and hold on and sustain those blocks. He needs to improve his angles on zone blocks. And the one thing that reading up on him that I've read is he had quite a bit of false start penalties as a guard. So that's something he's going to have to clean up. Clearly at center, you're not going to have false starts.
Yeah.
But maybe he's trying to fire off the ball too quickly. But other than that, the guy's athletic. He moves well. He can pull. Once he latches on, he has the core strength to sustain blocks. He's probably going to be more of a zone blocking guy. The leverage is good here too. He's not going to be a mauler in the run game. I do think, just reading out, he does fit better at center. I think he is going to push Andre James. You got to remember, this new regime is not tied to Andre James. Tom Cable's gone. I could easily see them moving on from Andre James. I know he played better down the stretch last year, but in no stretch of the imagination is he cemented in as the center of this team this year or moving forward. So
could he move to guard, or is it no. basically this is him or Parnum? Like, I mean, they're basically gonna make them one of those guys the center.
Yeah, for me, Andre James just doesn't have the play strength. He's not physical enough to play guard. You see him get mauled in the running game at center. Like, he's not going to hold up as a guard.
Yeah.
You don't want him in there doing so. It's center or bust for Andre James. And at this point, I think Parham does push him. Now, Parham could move over and play guard if they need him to. But I think moving forward, he's going to be their center.
And I'm also, the game that everybody talked about with Parham was when he played Logan Hall. And they went toe to toe in that game. So that was a game that everybody looked at for defensive interior and also offensive interior as well. And he definitely held his own there as far as that goes. Zeus, right? Zamir White. I had a little video I put on Twitter for that for him today. Who does he remind you of? Anybody, like, as far as like, any of these power backs from the past? Because he really does do a good job. I really, like I said, always forward leaning, always doesn't get caught for losses behind the line of scrimmage. That jump cut ability is real nice to see as well too. What are your thoughts about Zamir White here?
Yeah, I'm not going to drop a comp on him. Like, I don't know if you saw Maurice Jones-Drew comped him to Adrian Peterson.
What was that? Come on.
This is an interesting pick because they didn't pick up the fifth-year option on Josh Jacobs. You're taking a running back in the fourth round, so you're probably going to want to incorporate him in and then get him heavy carries next year. This is the writing on the wall that Josh Jacobs, if he doesn't go out and ball out this year, he's probably not on this team next year. But Zamir White, he's physical. He can run. He ran a 4.4, 0.40. He's a patient inside runner. This is not a guy that you're going to run a lot of outside zone stuff with. So he's inside zone, gap, power. Lowers those pads at the point of the attack. He will run through guys. He runs through contact. you got to remember these kind of running backs that are physical, that you love to watch tape to run through guys. They don't have long careers in the NFL. Like this guy's not going to run over guys for the next 8 to 10 years. So you're probably looking at,
3 and done,
5-year career, probably. Like
yeah.
This guy's probably not getting a second contract because he's just going to be beat up by then, unless they do a running back. The biggest thing I saw with him is he had 21 targets last year. So 21 targets in his career. So they didn't use him in the passing game at Georgia. He's torn an ACL in both knees. So this is a medical risk too. He's got 2 ACL tears, only 3 career fumbles. That stood out to me. Josh Jacobs has been a little loose security. Here comes Josh McDaniels. And what do they hate to do in New England? They don't fumble. They don't turn the ball over. And he goes out and he drafts a running back who had 3 career fumbles in college in the SEC. So that's pretty impressive. So I like the pick. I don't expect him to make a huge impact as a rookie. I still think this thing is going to be driven by Josh Jacobs, Sprinkle, and Drake. You're going to get Bolden's going to get some carries. So if Zamir White gets in and gets 3 or 4 carries, maybe he's the goal line runner and short yardage back. That's kind of what I think his role is going to be as a rookie. I don't think he's going to get, unless Josh Jacobs goes down. I don't see Zamir White getting more than 50 to 75 carries this year.
Yeah, I mean he could definitely. Listen, like I think that some of these guys, I mean, they did also bring in some other veteran backs as well, too. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. But I'm interested to see if he does have hands. If we can see some of that maybe in the preseason or something like that, to see if he actually does have the ability to catch the football out of the backfield consistently. Just for the future. But for this year, I do think this is like, they put in Josh on notice, number one. I don't think it's maybe etched in stone that he won't be back. I think most likely he won't be back. But if he does have a tremendous year, and if they block in front of him the way he wants to, and you have all those dynamic weapons on the outside, it's gonna be a little. I mean, it's gonna be a little difficult to just say, hey, we gotta worry about Josh Jacobs running the football. We'll have to see what kind of production they get out of him going forward here. The Raiders drafted also Neil Farrell Jr. From LSU, interior defensive tackle here. Listen, in this defense, this is what I mean. We knew that the people like Jefferson and Phylon and people like that, they just didn't fit. We knew that. We talked about this ad nauseum on our podcast here, and the drafting of Farrell really kind of says that too, along with him and Matthew Butler.
Yeah, Farrell's just that big nose tackle. So Hankins is going to be on this roster as the nose tackle, but he's had some injuries. He's consistently on a 1-year deal. This is a depth piece moving forward. You need at least 2 of these big interior run stuffers if you're going to run this 3-4 front. So his job is to get in there and be a run stopper, and he's really good at that. He's got strong hands. He carries 330 pounds really well in his frame. He's got a good lower half. He's really good at pressing blockers and disengaging. He's got good vision to find the runner. My concerns with him, he's not very rangy. And this guy's not going to run up and down the line of scrimmage plays. Pass rush is basically bull rush or nothing. He doesn't have a ton of pass rush moves, so he's going to be an interior 2-down player. And he struggles to break down in short areas. This is another thing that I kind of saw when watching some of them. Like if he beats his guy, like the quarterback puts a little move, the running back puts a little move, he's not going to sink his hips and be able to move and get there. He's basically just a power player. But in this defense, they need those kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to get some snaps. He's going to rotate in with Hankins. I would think in goal line and short yardage, you'd have him and Hankins next to each other and just, put 330 pounds next to each other.
Is he 25? Is he the older one? I know they drafted. Is he? I don't
have his age in front of me.
Yeah, but I think one of these tackles. I'm pretty sure. I think it's him. I've been pretty sure that he was the one who was the older one in the group. But I mean, some of these guys set out for COVID. Some of these guys are they're seniors.
He's 23.6.
23.6. Maybe that was Butler then. He, like I said, like you said, they need some unmovable objects up front so they can do what he wants to do defensively. We know that. So hopefully that continues with Farrell for Farrell going forward. Butler is a little bit different kind of tackle, right? He's more
Yeah.
he's more of up the field, can do a little bit more athletic, can do some things that way, right?
Yeah, this guy's a little bit different. He's 6'3", 6'4", 297 pounds. This guy's versatile. He can line up as a 1 technique, a 3 technique, a 5 technique. You're going to move him up and down the line in this defense. He's quick off the ball, plays a good pad level. More effort than athlete here. He's going to give you a good effort more than he's just going to be a pure athlete and beat guys. The length here is okay. He's not super long armed or anything. Play strength is an issue in the run game, so he's more, he's going to give you a little bit of pass rush upside. He's very similar to Bilal Nichols, who the Raiders just had in free agency.
Yeah.
And counter moves are another thing with him. Like if his first move gets shut down, he doesn't really show a lot of counter moves. But this is a high effort, high motored guy that can be versatile and play in multiple positions and give you a little bit of pass rush. In the 5th round, you absolutely sign up and you take that type of player. So he's going to play well off of what Farrell does. They're kind of completely different players, even though they're both technically defensive tackles. So Butler's going to be a rotational guy. They go to a nickel, getting a couple of opportunities inside as a 3 technique on 4-man fronts during pass rush downs. This is a guy that he's a pretty good player. His best footballs might be ahead of him. He had his best year this year as a senior. So we'll see what happens moving forward. I kind of like that 5th round. It does raise a question. How many defensive linemen are they going to keep? Because they signed a bunch in free agency.
Yeah.
They brought back Hankins. They're going to have to release some of these guys. And clearly these 2 rookies are going to make the roster. So, Kendall Vickers might be gone. They signed Pecco. They signed Billings. Then Nichols is another guy. There's a total of about 8 defensive tackles for probably 5, maybe 6 spots on the roster. So some of these free agents that signed and were excited to join the Raiders won't be here when the season starts, because I don't think either one of these guys is going to get released and make it through waivers to get back to squad.
Yeah, I would think Nichols would probably make the squad too. But because they signed him pretty early in the process. But yeah, as far as like Andrew, as far as Billings go, Billings could be more of a project. Something like that, and then so we'll see him in Petco. We'll see what happens.
Vernon Butler,
Vernon Butler's another guy too. Yeah, so they got their slew of choices there as far as that goes. Munford, here, we're at 75, like Howie Long and other greats like Brandon Parker. So the wingspan is ridiculous, right? If you slap box with him, he can hit you from across the room with a 7-foot wingspan. So you gotta like that. I know everybody keeps playing that Adrian Hutchinson tape where he gets run over by Adrian Hutchinson. If you want to go, to keep doing that for one play, you can do that. But obviously, he adds some offensive line depth at tackle for the Raiders here going forward. Who, listen, when it's a new regime, when it's a new sheriff in town, there's no job that's safe, right?
Yeah, this is a big, powerful dude. In the 7th round, if you can get a guy from a major program that's played left tackle and right tackle, he's 6'6", 328 pounds. You mentioned the wingspan at 84 and 5/8 inches. It's huge.
Yes.
It's going to be hard to run around this guy if he can get the footwork cleaned up. The biggest thing is a Raiders fan. You know what the first thing I went to that I highlighted? He had 2 penalties total the last 2 years. So after dealing with Brandon Parker and Alex Leatherwood, if we can get a tackle or a guard in there that doesn't commit penalties, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
But quick notes, you mentioned it: wide frame, long arms, thick body, powerful hands, inconsistent feet and pass protection. He's a waist bender and plays high at times. So going to have to clean up the pass blocking, the pass sets. But this is a big guy. If he can get the footwork just to an adequate level and make guys run around him, that should be enough time for him to hold up as a right tackle. I do expect him to push Brandon Parker. Clearly I think he played left tackle for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, at Ohio State. The swing tackle has always been an issue. So a guy that can play both sides is a rookie. Even if he doesn't end up starting on this team, but he has experience at both sides, they need depth at offensive tackle. It can't just be Jackson Bart and Brandon Parker.
Yeah. You got to do it. It should be, you know, and then after June 1st, we'll have to see what happens there. Because you know that's where maybe get some more money going. I know people had their hopes up for maybe Tyrann Mathieu as well, so that didn't happen. He's going to be on the Saints, and the Saints, you know, if the Saints get any quarterback play, they're going to be a tough team to play this year, and the Raiders are going. I think that's the road trip I might have to go to. I might have to go to New Orleans to see the Raiders play to play the Saints. As far as that goes, good to see the Raiders are not going to be playing any international games this year as well too, which is lovely. Overall, looking at this draft and how you feel about it, I kind of feel like, I forgot Britton Brown. I forgot Britton Brown. I'm not gonna, because I don't know Britton Brown.
He's a Bruin, so
he's a Bruin. Yeah, he's a Bruin. I'm not, he's a Bruin. So, but what are your thoughts about him? I mean, obviously, I think he's just definitely, he looks like special teams all the way as far as that goes. I mean, he had the one big game. Who was that running back for the Patriots? Like, was it Gary who had like a 300-yard game?
Jarvis Green Ellis.
Ellis, yeah. So yeah, he had a huge game, and you never heard from him again. Maybe, and that's kind of what happened to Brown in college, right? He had a huge game, 200 yards, and I kind of never heard from him again. So the Raiders obviously saw something in him where they said they wanted to have him on the team, instead of kind of maybe making him an unrestricted free agent and drafted him through the for after the draft. I know a lot of players in the draft, when they get to the 6th or 7th round, they would rather just be unrestricted rookie than rather be drafted by a team. So you kind of choose where they could possibly go. What thoughts about Brown here?
This is a head scratcher. I still don't understand he's not going to make the team. He's going to be practice squad guy. He's not fast. He ran at 4.66. He's not big. He's 6 foot, 208 pounds. He's patient. He's an inside runner. There's some physicality here to his running style. He didn't play a ton of special teams at UCLA, so I don't see special teams upside. This is almost like we like this guy, how he runs it and sits our offense. We're going to run between the tackles. Let's stash him on the practice squad. If someone gets hurt, we'll have him and we can plug him in, and we can emphasize what he does best, which is just run between the tackles. He's not a home run hitter. He's not going to catch a ton of balls. So this screams practice squad to me in case you have some injuries, because, with Josh McDaniels, he's going to highlight the strengths of all these guys, and he's going to rotate them in and out. So this is just, I think they do plan on running the ball a lot and being a physical team, and this is just to have another horse in the stable, basically.
Yeah. I just can't. It's interesting for that. Jesse from the 213 wants to know who we think the best pick was in this draft. I think when we look back at it, I like Butler, but I think Parnum is going to be a guy who kind of I got a video playing in the background.
Yeah. Okay. I think if you look at the guys the Raiders took, this is a depth draft. Most of these guys aren't going to play a lot early. A couple of these guys might turn into starters. I think Dylan Parham, when we look back, this is the one guy on this roster that I think has a chance to be an above average player in the National Football League. And if he does work out as center with the type of athlete he is, I think he has a chance to be a Pro Bowler if the stars align. So I think Parham's probably the best pick out of these guys.
Do you think he beats? You think this is like his year to try to beat? Like, can he beat Andrew James out in this season? Would you start a rookie center like rookie? I mean, the Chiefs did it last year. So I mean, if you're gonna start somebody, a rookie center is a good spot. You can definitely do that and have a high level offense.
So I think the key here is Josh McDaniel's system, and I don't know enough about it, but you have a veteran in Derek Carr that can set the protections and the audibles, and he's going to understand where the blitzes are. The hardest thing for Parham is he hasn't played center in a game other than Senior Bowl, but understanding what the fronts and what the defense is trying to do and where the blitzers are going to come from, and having a veteran quarterback with Carr, I think helps alleviate that. Yeah, he's a better player than Andre James. He absolutely should beat him out if they do want to try him at center. And I think they run with it. I think if you want to put your best 5 guys out there, he's going to be lining up at center. It might not be week 1, but it's going to be pretty quickly.
Well, Leatherwood, listen, we all see workout videos, but do you feel like he's just gonna have they're just gonna end up just going out and just saying, hey, the best five are gonna play, right? They're just gonna say, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not gonna care about where you people were drafted or wherever. They're just gonna say, this is the playbook, this is the preseason, this is training camp, these are best five guys, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah, I think I've seen the videos too. And the best five are going to play. No one on this team is guaranteed a spot. I do think they're going to try him a tackle. I do think they're going to give Leatherwood every chance to play tackle. If it doesn't work out, I do want to clear one thing. Denzel Good is not a right tackle. I know he did a game or two, but he did not play well against the Patriots week 3 that couple of years ago when he was asked to play right tackle. So I don't think that's even an option. I think you plug him in at right guard or left guard. He's going to be a starting guard on this team. So if Leatherwood can make the transition to right tackle, then
Illuminor is still there, a guy who they're familiar with too. So like, you got. I mean, listen. I mean, like
there's options.
Yeah, there's options, and like for us, like I mean, I wouldn't want somebody like right next to me. I'm trying to take my job every day, but like I'm not an NFL player. Like those guys really, this team is really gonna have some real competition, and like they're gonna be cutting some players who like that's going to be tough for him because it's a tough situation.
I wouldn't overlook Alex Bars, who they signed as well, who's versatile, and he can play all the interior spots. So if Parham does win, let's say Parham wins the starting center job, Andre James might get released. I'm looking way out into the future, but if you have a backup like Bars who has played center and both guard spots, who's a veteran, you're probably going to want him as a backup lineman because he can play other spots, whereas Andre James is a center only. So if Andre James doesn't win the starting center job, he doesn't really have any value as a backup other than just a center, and teams aren't keeping just pure backup centers.
Yeah. The Raiders did hire a new director of scouting. I forgot.
Eddie McGill.
Eddie McGill, right? So they have it more. I mean, listen, I'm gonna say this for I was gonna say this for another podcast, but I'm saying it now. But like, so I heard that Phil Jackson is basically a liaison trying to help the Lakers find a new coach. So I use that as because the Lakers are my favorite the basketball team to the Raiders who are my favorite football team. While you and I both didn't, kind of foresee Ziegler and McDaniel taking over, they have two guys, young, kind of in their prime, who I don't know how many games the Raiders are going to win this year, but they've entered the modern NFL, right? They've entered the modern NFL. Like really, they really have. With the Lakers, and they have not. I mean, if you keep going stuff like that with Phil Jackson, like helping Phil Jackson help pick your coach, you're not entering the modern NBA as far as that goes. So I like that the direction that they've had right now is pretty clear what they're trying to do. What they say they got to execute it. I think they're having a solid off season right now. It's still not done yet because there's still more depth they can add to this team. And who knows? I mean, there's a certain cornerback in New York who everybody is waiting to get released. With James Bradbury, would you just like say, hey, listen, we'll give you a 7th? Because we don't want him to go to free agency because he does have that relationship with Patrick Graham, but like you don't want anybody else trying to like throw anything extra at him.
No, I don't want that contract. I don't want that $13 million salary. I want to negotiate my own deal with him. And if he does become free, I'm sure that there'll be a conversation with Patrick Graham, and if he's comfortable with the system, he'll come. Remember, the Raiders are going to have $20-25 million cap space here pretty quickly within the next month. So they'll be able to afford him. It's a question of whether he'd want to come play. Off subject. Do you listen to the SiriusXM NFL Blitz show with Rich Gannon and I think it's Bruce Murray?
I don't think I have not. How was it?
This is a Raider. I want to tell this Raider story real quick. So I'm in the gym today listening to it. Rich Gannon's on like 2 or 3 times a week, and he talked about a preseason game against the Cowboys in Mexico. He's never told the story, he said on there. So the Raiders were down in Mexico playing the Cowboys. This must have been like 2001 or 2002. And the night before, he said a bunch of guys on the team went out, got hammered, 2:00 in the morning, the federales are knocking on the hotel room doors, like trying to find players, trying to figure out what's going on. They had a game the next day.
Oh my God.
And guys were late to the team meeting in the morning, and I guess he lost it. He was just like, you know what, I'm not playing today. He tried to find John Gruden before the game and told John, hey, I'm not playing. One of the linemen told him, get rid of the ball quick because I just don't have it today. And so basically, Rich didn't play in the preseason game. And I guess got to Al Davis, and Al Davis found him on the sideline, called him selfish, told him, the NFL is mandating that you and Troy Aikman play in this game. We need viewers. And Rich said, no, I'm not playing. And he didn't play. And he said he was trying to set an example to that team that what was it acceptable to be a pro, and these guys were out partying. They didn't care. He didn't name any names.
Yeah.
But he basically said the locker room, the culture was terrible, basically terrible.
Oh, when he got there, right?
This was after they had already won the AFC West one year, he said. So I'm assuming this is like 2001 or 2002. And he basically said a lot of the guys on the team, like, didn't have his back and were basically calling him selfish too. And like, they didn't understand what he was trying to tell them by not putting his career at risk. He told, I don't, if I'm remembering correctly, he told them, I'd rather go sell insurance than play behind these guys today and risk my career. He said it was bad. It was a lot of players were hungover and drunk. And once he got hurt, and he got hurt that season, shortly after that, I think it was like 2002 or 2003.
Wasn't it the game against the Bucks, right?
It might have been, Derek. I think it was Derek Brooks.
I'm pretty sure it was the game against the Bucks.
His injury didn't happen as a result of what happened in Mexico. I don't want to keep that, but like, I've never heard that story. But this was after they'd already won the AFC West a couple times under John Gruden, and he said it was just brutal, like trying to be professionals. And like, it was funny just hearing him tell that story today. You could probably go back and listen to it if you have Sirius XM, but they were pressuring him on the show to write a book and reveal names. They wanted names, but he wouldn't give up names. Of who some of the players were. He said there was some players on the team that understood and knew why he was doing it, why he stayed out of the game. But he said he put on street clothes 45 minutes before the game and stood on the sideline. And John Gruden wasn't happy. Al Davis wasn't happy. The NFL wasn't happy. But he said he wasn't going to risk his career behind those guys.
I mean, they're only playing.
Might have been after he won the MVP. I'm looking it up. What year was that?
Yeah, I mean that's funny though, because I mean he's you gotta look at it like he's a situation where he is. That's great. That's a crazy story. So they played in Mexico in 2001. So this happened August 27, 2001.
Yeah. And they went to the Super Bowl in 2002.
I think it's very different. Yeah, 2002. Because I remember that because that was a year of severe heartbreak for me because the Raiders
would have been the Saragusa, right?
The Raiders lost the Super Bowl that year, and I believe the Giants lost the World Series to the to the Angels and the Bradley Monkey that same year. I figured I was going to get one championship. I got none.
He won the MVP in 2000, so this happened prior to the 2001 season.
That's crazy.
Where he made the Pro Bowl, but yeah, it was just interesting, like because you hear about the stories of Rich Gannon going in there and getting rid of the pool tables and getting rid of all that stuff. And this was 3 years into his tenure there. He was still dealing with some of that stuff.
Well, to me, that kind of shows like too is like I mean, it's true. I mean, like who was it, Gruden or Callahan's the coach in that year?
It was still Gruden.
It's still Gruden, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like it's one thing. I mean, like I think for Al too, like it worked when it was all the cast of characters with the snake, right? And everybody like that, right? All those guys, they come off the bus and with the black leather jackets and they probably did go out all night and then they come back and play a game and still whip your behind. But I think as football got, a little bit more,
just listening to him talk, it was, I wish, there was more guys like that on the roster over these last 20 years. Cause he was like, we work too hard. I work too hard to go out there and jeopardize my health because you guys aren't professional.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood that part of it. Like, I do like to have a good time, but I mean, you do have situations too where it's like, you should be able to do it responsibly or do it like in the off season. Yeah, you got so much off season in the NFL. Like, you got a lot of off season.
Yeah.
You got a lot of off season. This ain't baseball. You got a lot of off season in the NFL. Like let's call it like it is. So if you want to go out, you could definitely go out. So that's crazy, man. I mean, you want to have these international games. That's what happens. The list of international games. Did you see that one of them is only on ESPN Plus?
I didn't. Which one is that?
That is
hopefully the Jaguars game.
Yeah, no, I believe it is the Broncos game. The Broncos playing somebody. Broncos playing somebody, but the game is
I think
only
it's the Saints.
Is it?
I could be wrong.
Okay,
I'm probably wrong.
It's only on that game. So that's kind of like weird that they're doing that. There's a lot of rumors on what they're going to do with the NFL package as well. Could be a lot of different avenues for it. It might not be as the Jaguars and the Broncos. So
Jaguars, there you go.
Yeah, so hopefully Doug Peterson does his thing in that game as well. AFC West, we can kind of break that down probably next week about the AFC West draft and see how some of the other teams in the AFC West did. I know the grades are kind of like, I'm not really feeling the grade part of it. I just feel like, somebody like, the Jets, some of these teams they have like the Falcons got a good grade. Like the Falcons have one of the worst defenses in football. They did nothing to fix that at all. I mean, I'm not sure what direction that, that they're going as far as that goes. They, so it seems like a total mess down there. So I'm not in love with what they're doing there. So some of these grades are kind of weird to me. But I do think like, for the Raiders this year, this was Avante Adams and then a bunch of guys who are going to be depth pieces for this team, and we'll see what happens as far as that goes. Somebody did put out something out the other day about how many games in the last couple of years that Josh Jacobs has missed. So I think he only missed like maybe 6 games in the last 3 years. Six, something like that. So I did see that, and I was like, I didn't realize that. I mean, my only thing is like I don't hate Josh Jacobs. I just hate where he was drafted. I just can't. But I can't go back and change time as far as that goes. They can't cut Farrell, right?
Cleveland Farrell?
Yeah.
Not unless they want to take like $1 million cap hit.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the roster.
It's tough to watch that. Anything else for the Raiders here? Before we head out?
No, but I did peg Desmond Ridder to the Falcons in our mock draft last week. I liked the fit there. Obviously, I reached in the first round just because it was a fun mock draft, but I did like him ending up there.
What do you think about this whole Malik Willis thing with Tannehill saying that he's not there to mentor him?
I don't think he's being a very good teammate. He needs to be a good teammate. They're going to share a quarterback room. You're competing with the guy, but you still need to help him out. And someone along the lines helped Ryan Tannehill out, and they taught him the ropes when he was in Miami early in his career.
Exactly. I mean, because he came from being a wide receiver, wasn't he?
He was a wide receiver at Texas A&M, and then he converted to quarterback.
Yeah. So somewhere along the line, somebody paid it forward and helped him. So I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why that was so hard for him to go do that. Sounds like Debo is probably staying there. They didn't budge on that as far as that goes. So kudos to the Niners for kind of holding ground. Usually people don't hold ground in these situations. They end up just trading the guy, which is like what the Titans did. You like Treylon Burks?
Would
that fit there? Yeah, I mean that fit is not a good fit. I don't like that fit. I would have liked it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in love with that Treylon Burks in Tennessee. I'm not really a fan of that one. As far as that goes. So
I think on the draft when we talk about I wrote down a couple of drafts I like. Clearly, the Ravens, the Jets are going to be up there just because they had multiple first-round picks, and I like some of the picks. I think the sneaky draft here no one talks about is, and you kind of glossed over it, I like the Seahawks draft. And you just look at their picks in the top 5 rounds. They took Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, who's going to be a good twitched-up, athletic defensive end. Kenneth Walker, the third, is a good running back. Andrew Lucas in the 3rd round is a good tackle to put across and cross. And then they picked up 2 corners in Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen, who had a chance to be pretty good players. Give that's 6 pretty good football players. I know that Drew Lock's their quarterback and they're not going to win a ton of games, but
Yeah.
that's 6 quality football players they've added their roster.
And I would say to that point, like just keep building the roster, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll find, and if you find when you find the quarterback, and you'll be good to go. All right. So Put On Raiders a podcast. Myself and Ryan Holmes. We'll see you next time. Peace, Raider Nation. It's going to quiet down just a little bit because the draft. And I guess next week we'll be doing like, I'm sure like didn't last year somebody asked you to come on their podcast and they were like, can you predict how many wins the Raiders are going to have because the schedule's coming out next week? So I remember that podcast. You were like, how am I supposed to know how many games you're going to win this week?
Next year. I think I predicted 10-7 though, so I think I knew.
Yeah, I think I was 11. I had them winning 11 games. Where if they just beat the Bears, the Giants, or the Reds, or the Commanders, they would have had the 11 wins that I had for them. But I definitely have them going to the playoffs last year, and they better damn sure make the playoffs this year. Especially with all the moves they made. So we'll see what's going on. We'll see what happens there. All right, Ryan, you have a good night. I know you have a long day. Take care.
All right, take care.